50. I don't know if she wants the world to know that, but some ladies came
Wait,
over.
how
We were
old
at
is Tosca?
we were at BPI, and one of the ladies
Tosca
I
Lee
played
is
bridge
50.
with came over, and she said, you'll be surprised how fast they grow up. And I thought, are you kidding me? And now they're grown up and gone. So
Oh yeah.
enjoy every
Mhm.
minute. Yeah.
People, my mother and my grandmother said that to me because I have 4 kids, and they said it with every kid. And by the last one, I was like, I don't feel like that's the way it is. I really want them to get to at least age 5 to start pouring their own cereal. That's my favorite age because
Oh,
they
yeah.
still adore you. They're still so cute and loving and lovable, and then they get to
Yeah.
12 and things go downhill kind of quickly. But
There's
hey,
there's that meme floating around on Facebook right that says that I'm so glad that my son has turned 14 and knows everything, even more than his father and I. We're so proud. Like, yeah, how that feels.
I have shown that meme to my kids as well. Uh,
I'm
Well,
trying to find the
guys.
best spot here. Yeah.
That's okay.
Guys, it is Saturday night, and you are live with the Spilling Ink crew. I am the Jason Lavelle, and I'm rocking a brand new. I got to get closer. Maybe I just don't have good light. My brand new fuzzy pinks flannel, which I love. And then if you look to the middle top of your screen, you'll see the Captain Trainwreck, Katie Salidas.
Who is rocking the Go Indie Now shirt
All
today.
right, go Indie Now.
Representing. So
Heck
if Joe's
yeah.
watching tonight, hey.
Yes, we love Go Indie Now. He's got a lot of great shows out there. And then the mysterious Frost Queen, Miss J.E. Taylor.
Hi, guys.
I'm running out of ways to say that you're evil and creepy, but seriously, guys, if you read her books, you would be frightened. You would be frightened. Well,
Yeah, well, hey.
well, and just below Jane, we actually have 2 brand new guests on tonight. So I'm super excited about this because we usually get a lot of repeat guests, and we love you guys too. But new people are great. So, Laura, you're going to have to help me with your last name.
Moncrief, it's Scottish.
Moncrief. All right, Laura Moncrief. And Laura, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother, and I can't believe I'm on your show, but thank you for having me.
Well, you're very welcome. I'm excited to have you. And then over to the left, I'm hoping that the screen is the same on everybody else's because I'm saying left and right and up and down, and it might not be. But over to the left, we have someone.
If not, Amanda's going to look awfully young for a great-grandmother.
we have 70-year-old. We have the amazing and one of my writing and personal heroes. I'm sorry, this is a fangirl moment for me, Katie. You know, I can't help it when I do this. Amanda Jette Knox.
Hi. I'm glad to be here. I have a fuzzy blanket. Hello from Canada. I'm wrapping myself in it. I'm in the basement and it's really, really cold. So I don't want to freeze to death on your show. I feel like that wouldn't be good for ratings.
No. It wouldn't.
Oh, people love a train wreck.
That's true.
People would.
And Amanda, can you tell me who set up that studio for you? Who set up your little studio room?
My daughter Alexis set up the studio for me. And then my son Jackson, who is 13, basically just gave her a hard time while she did it. So he helped too in his
That's
own
essential.
little brother way.
Yeah.
I did not do this myself. I can take no credit. I have a ring light. I have a fancy camera. I borrowed a microphone from the children and I'm ready to go.
I say you got to give them high fives because you do. It sounds great in there.
Oh, yeah. Good job, kids. I'll give them extra allowance or I won't make them shovel the driveway tomorrow when it snows.
Well, that could be their prize.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to die.
Yes, exactly.
That's right.
Well, and as always, everyone, Baby Yoda is here with me tonight. Baby Yoda says hello and welcome to Spilling Ink. And very, very sad that it's probably another year until we get season 2 of The Mandalorian.
That's too long to wait.
We can't get into that. It's a sensitive subject. It's pretty rough.
Okay. I've got a funny story that happened this week. Just a little aside. So speaking of the child, it was career week at my youngest school. And so they asked me, or actually I was literally dragged up to the teacher and told, "You're going to talk to my class." So I did. And it's a kindergarten class, mind you. So I'm trying to talk to them about writing. And I go, "Okay, does anybody have any questions?" And everybody's hand shoots up in the air. And I'm like, "Oh, this is really great." I'm like, "Okay." And I pick one. And they look at me and go, "How old are you?" It's like, okay, let's play with that. I was like, "Go ahead, guess." And then of course they all start throwing out ages. My favorite one was 200.
That's close. You are an immortal being, right?
So there you go. There's my funny child story for the week. I am officially 200 years old.
Oh.
Okay.
You look great. Really good. I want to talk skincare after we're off the air.
No problem.
You look a lot like Brad Pitt in Interview with a Vampire.
I don't know if that's a compliment
No,
or
it's
not.
good. He was beautiful, wasn't he?
Beautiful.
He really was. Oh, so we've already got some comments going on here. Actually, I have lots of comments going on here. Our most recent one is from Rebecca Jonesy. Your kid outed you as a vampire. I like
It wasn't my kid that said it though.
But like indirectly your kid. When you think about it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
So everybody knows us three. Well, maybe not everybody if we've got new viewers tonight, but with you two on the bottom, that feels bad. Can we turn them around and make them on top? Make them so they're the focal point.
Fine. I'm okay here. I'm good here.
You guys are just having too much fun. This is what they call work.
That's the name of the game.
Are you kidding me?
Well, this show is about writing and publishing, but a big part of writing and publishing is, having your scotch and your baby Yoda and doing a little bit of writing and then getting distracted and laughing and hanging out with friends. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're living that writer life right now. But we do want to know.
I am so glad to hear that because, as you know, I love Tosca and she loves her job, her work, writing and everything. And I can't wait to tell her, I thought you were so busy writing and working all the time. I had no idea that you were having so much fun with this. So
oh yeah, this is what we do.
Tell her.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is the glamorous life right here.
So Laura, your daughter is Tosca Lee, who has been on this show. She might have been on this show more than once actually, and she is kind of a hotshot author. She wrote. She writes a lot of books, and her most recent two are The Line Between and A Single Light, her post-apocalyptic thrillers, which were fantastic. But what do you write? Are you in that same vein of spooky, scary stuff?
No, I don't watch scary at all. My books that I've written, the 8 I've written, are all genealogy, family histories, I did write about, I dug up all the information I could on a couple old pioneer cemeteries and wrote on each of the people buried in those cemeteries. So that's about as spooky as it gets for me.
All right.
So, by the way, you're breaking up a lot. So if I'm answering the wrong question, I'm not drinking. Really. I wish I were. Yeah.
Well, what is your book that you just released?
I didn't hear that.
Did you just released a book, correct?
Are you talking about my little travel book?
Yeah. Can you tell us about that?
It's just a short little. It's just a little short travel book that gives you all kinds of tips on how to travel with less stuff, so that you can be freer and enjoy your trip instead of worrying about all that luggage where to. When you get on the little boat or on the little plane or something. So it's just a handy little thing. After all these years of travel, I've learned you don't need a ton of stuff to travel. So I just whipped it up, told you some key ingredients and things. You can get the lists that tell you what to pack, so you don't even have to think. You just get the list, you check off each item, and you go, I know Laura told me this was going to work, and it's going to work. So that's it.
I I like the
Easy.
part where you don't have to think. That's wonderful.
Of course you
That's-
do, Jason.
That's great. I really like that.
Ouch. I like the sass here. Have me on all the time, please.
Oh my God, it's all sass all the time.
Okay, all right. Serious question then. Can you give us one tip without spoiling too much in the book? Give us one really good travel tip.
Okay. Well, you know, in the little port bag that you take that has to go through security, you can put all kinds of things in there. And my best tip in there is if you're gone for 1 week, you put in one little travel toothpaste. And if you're gone for 4 weeks, you put in 4 of them. But everything else is identical in your suitcase, whether you're going for 1 week or 4 weeks. You take the exact same stuff, you just take more toothpaste. I seriously will tell you, you can go all over the world with
No.
that.
What if you only brush your teeth once a week, though? How does that work?
No, you gotta brush them every day if you want to keep them. Besides, unless you're going to the moon, they're going to sell more toothpaste if you happen to be a 5 times a day toothbrusher or something.
Well,
We're gonna have a talk about your dental hygiene habits,
Yeah.
Jason.
There's an intervention
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
this
Yes,
portion of the
yes.
show.
well, let
You don't
let
want to be
me
like my son and have 9 cavities.
well let me tell you this
So
then.
that's my best tip. I'm going to listen to you because it's still breaking up.
So I will tell you, if you want to talk about dental hygiene, I'm going to be 40 in just a few days. I have never had a cavity in my life.
Yeah, you're like my husband.
Can anyone else say that?
No, my husband can. My
Once a week
husband-
toothbrushing, guys.
Dude, no.
Ew.
I'm like a dog. I need a dental every 3 to 4 years, and then I'm good to go.
Wait a minute. That doesn't count if you don't go to the dentist. You can't claim no cavities if you never go to the dentist.
Right, exactly.
That's one of the first things I look at if I'm going to date somebody is I look in their mouth to see if those are their real teeth. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
you are
yeah.
a big plus.
We got travel and dating tips now.
Ooh.
Well, taking a break from the dating tips, we've got Amanda Jette Knox over here, and you have a best-selling book that released last year, right?
Yeah, it came out at the end of July.
Well, tell us
And,
all about Love Lives Here.
So it's a memoir about my family. And we've been through a few changes in the last few years. So first at the time, middle child, because we had not adopted yet. Our middle child was 11 in 2014 and came out to us and said, I'm a girl. And so I had to learn a lot about what being transgender meant. And the following year, my spouse of then 18 years told me that she was also a woman. So I, once again, sort of had to learn about what it looks like to support someone who's an adult through transition. And through all this, realized that I was very, 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 very gay.
Wait,
And
what
so
was that? Wait,
so-
what were you again?
I was very, very, very gay. Yeah, I think I've always known that, but that comes out too. So a lot of comings out in the book. And the thing about it is that we all stuck together and we learned and we unlearned. And I chronicle a lot of my mistakes in there because I made plenty of mistakes, and the wins of our family, and really the win is that we are a lot happier on the other side of all these transitions, all these changes, and we're still kind of the same boring family, who fights setting up, YouTube and podcast spaces in the basement. So, yeah, there you go. That's it in a nutshell.
Well, and that was a nutshell. But what she's not telling you is that this book was pretty groundbreaking, I think, for a lot of people. It is a huge hit, but not only that, it has opened a lot of people's eyes and taught a lot of people many things, which I think is incredible as an author. So, and you were I'm searching for the picture right now. I was going to put it on there just to mess with you, and I can't find it. You were just you were just named one of the most influential women of 2019 in Canada, weren't you?
Okay, so yeah,
Wow.
for 2020, they chose 25 women of influence, and I am one of those women. I haven't quite.
Congratulations.
Thanks. I haven't quite wrapped my head around that yet, but yeah. So I'm going to Toronto in a few weeks. I'm bringing my eldest, who is 23. We're going together, and we are going to. I'm going to get an award for. I don't know, writing a book, sticking up for people on Twitter. I don't know exactly why, but that's cool. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Maybe this episode is all about humility. I mean, maybe that's.
I don't know. It's so funny. I think that we sometimes put writers and authors, especially, on some kind of pedestal, and what I've realized, like I wanted to publish a book my whole life. So finally, this book gets published. It gets published by a large publishing house. I am, on cloud nine. But my life is pretty much the same. I mean, we're all, we're just people. It's we're just people. Now I just have a book I can show people. That's it.
Like, wait, yes.
What, and I have a question for you here. So, and this is something that we've talked about on the show before with various people. It's when we as authors release a book, we're putting a little bit of our soul out there for the people that are going to read it, and that can be nerve-wracking. It can be really daunting, because once it's out there, you can't really take it back, and then people are seeing what you thought and what you felt and what your skill level is, I guess, and that's scary, especially for guys like me. But with yours being a memoir, was there a difference, do you think? Do you think you felt a more personal connection? Was it especially scary when you sent it off to be published, or no?
Well, I think that, I think anytime you put a piece of yourself out into the world, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, it's definitely a vulnerable feeling. I haven't written a work of fiction that's been published, so I wouldn't know what that's like. But I would say there's probably an extra element when it is not only nonfiction, but really very much about your life and your family, and on a topic that is so misunderstood still. That's a big part of it. We get a lot of hate as a family. We get way more love than hate, like way more. We were downtown at one of the malls today, and we kept getting stopped by people, just saying, love your book, love your family, follow you on Twitter. It's just so nice. We've never had a negative interaction in public with people. But yeah, I mean, you write this. It's a piece of not only my life, but my family's life, my children's lives, my spouse's life. And then you send it off, and you just know that once it's out there and it's on paper, that's it. Somebody else now owns the rights to this in their own way. They can do what they want with it. And it's a little terrifying. I had a little breakdown after. Little tiny breakdown. Had to bump up my anxiety meds.
Well, Regine said we do put authors on shelves. We put them on bookshelves. That was very clever.
Very
Regine.
clever.
Very clever. I wish I knew your real name, but
I think there's a bit of a caveat there. We do tend to put some authors on pedestals, but we also like to knock them off as well.
Mhm. Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of both.
oh man, I do it. I've got certain authors on pedestals. I mean, and they're all my current favorite reads kind of thing. Like still on the pedestal right now is Victoria Schwab. I have a major crush on her writing. She is just kind of my idol for fantasy. And then also Pierce Brown, who's another fantasy author, and they're both still on the pedestal for me, which is why I'm trying so hard to get them on the show, because once I can talk to them, it's like, oh, okay, this is a human being. That's all right. I don't have to I don't have to be so scared of them and intimidated by them. Oh, also, Leah says hello. She's back. She's just
Oh,
hiding down
pretty.
Our mascot.
there.
Yes, our mascot.
But when you're writing,
Amanda, I think you're so brave. I think that's going to help a lot of people.
Thank you. I hope so.
I
That's
do.
why we did it. That's why we did it. I think my family members were really the brave ones. Like, I'm just the storyteller. They're the ones who said, it's okay. You can talk about this. We want this story out there, and really encouraged me to write it. So I think that's really, this says something about them too, that they trusted me with that and that they're going with it. I'm really impressed by them.
I've got a question for Amanda and Laura. When you're writing a memoir or a nonfiction book about travel tips, how do you take that knowledge that you have in your head and then turn it into something that's easily readable for people? Because in my head, if I know a lot about a certain program, I don't know that I could necessarily teach you about that program. It's all just a big jumble in my head. How do you get that organized and streamlined enough to really connect with others?
So you're asking me, because like I said, it's still cutting out a little bit. Are you asking me how I organized the whole darn thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, like I said, I just started writing a little bit about the history, and then I just got into the rest of what I thought people ought to know, because travel back in the 70s was so much nicer than it is now. And you have to know your luggage can get lost and all kinds of bad things can happen to you. And then I just sent it off to my daughter, and she immediately took out all the funny things that I thought I had in there. She said some of them weren't PC, whatever that is. So she took out some of I had one in there that you could bring along your favorite pleasure. And she said, Mom, I don't think anybody's ready for that one. So,
Well, you're now one of my favorite new people.
so I had this editor daughter, who took out some of the stuff I thought was really humorous, but you got to stay on the good side of your kids. They might have to take care of you later. So
That's true. That's very true. Well, listening to Tosca talk about how she composes her book is quite a process too. She's got a serious process going on.
Is she more of a plotter?
Well, the way she tells it, she is a plotter, but also kind of lets it go her own way. I think last time I talked to her.
Okay.
But yeah. Well, Amanda, what do you think? I know that your story was a little bit different, because I think that you were already chronicling these experiences online, weren't you?
Yeah, we'd been telling this story. I've been writing a blog for a while, but I didn't really go back much and grab a lot from the blog, just like a little paragraph here and there when I was trying to quote from it. I wanted to write it fresh, and I wanted to really get into the deep feelings. I remember when I talked about my wife, Zoe, coming out, when she came out to everyone, I wrote a blog post. It was called World Meet My Wife. And in it, I said that there had been some hard times to get to this moment, but that we were very much in love and that things were going really well. And I said that was a story for another time. And the reason I didn't talk about it online is because I had to get really uncomfortable and sit with those feelings. So I actually went away to a couple of friends' cottages all alone with a couple bottles of wine, and I wrote those really hard parts. But I had too much material. I think that's what ended up happening. So I just want to give a shout out to editors everywhere. Editors are incredible, and they have so much to do. Yeah, Rebecca's saying it right now. Got to stay on the good side of your editor. Yes, editors are the best. They my name's on the book. My editor had so much to do with the shaping of it. They're my words. It's our story. It's my voice. But she was really good at saying, Amanda, this doesn't really need to be here. This can be saved for another book or another time, or you could try moving this over here. So what I started with, the outline I started with, because I did write an outline, was not quite what I ended up with, but it's so much what I have now is so much better. So I'm shout out to editors. I love them so much.
Yeah, editors have a hard job taking all of our rough material and making it as something that people are going to want to read.
Yep.
Oh, oh goodness. Oh, we're getting so many comments on here. I just love it.
That's awesome.
I love it. Yes, the Pantser versus Plotter thing. That's been something that I think will go on into infinity.
Well, it's because we feel the need to say one or the other when truly it's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Even if you are a hardcore plotter, you're still pantsing some of it. And even if you're a hardcore pantser, you're still thinking of, the end result ahead of time. You're still plotting a little bit, even if it's just in your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not on paper.
Yeah.
Laura, did you enjoy writing the book, or did it feel like work to you?
You're still breaking up if you're asking me a question.
I am. I'm sorry. I was asking if writing that book brought you enjoyment, or did it feel like work to you?
Oh, are you talking about my little travel book?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what happened. I had no idea that I was going to have to learn about websites and blogs and Instagram, which I never had done before. Now I have an Instagram, I have a blog. It's like my older friends are going, you got to be kidding. I had to learn all these things. I had to learn about hashtags last week. Who knew, right? I have joined the modern world here. How much fun is this?
That's an important thing.
I think my daughter's trying to keep me from starting drinking or something. Maybe she thinks this will keep me off the streets.
Well, I'm wondering, when you put in your book that you could bring your favorite pleasure, were you talking about like a stuffed animal or a pillow?
Say that. I still, it's breaking up so much I can hardly hear what you're saying. I hope you can hear me. Mine's probably breaking up too.
I can hear you. I asked what you meant when you said that you were going to bring your favorite pleasure when you were packing.
No, I still can't understand what you just said. So.
Oh shoot. Well, the joke is lost, but that's okay. It was funny to me.
The joke is lost. Sorry, you'll have to email.
I'll email it to you.
I'm better at writing than I am at talking because you can edit it. You can change it around.
Amen. Amen to that.
Amen is right.
Oh yeah.
This is the first time I've ever been live on anybody's show, so I just want to tell you thank you so much, and I look forward to reading your book, Amanda. I mean, that is really brave. So I'll have to venture out a little bit further. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, let me know what you think. Maybe not like some of the people on Twitter. Let me know what they think. But
Twitter can be a nasty place.
Oh, Twitter. We have such a love-hate.
Yeah.
Well, and we've got some more great comments. Leslie says, Amanda's book allowed my late 80-year-old parents to understand me and come to love who I am, which is amazing. And then Stephanie with the real question of the hour.
I was going to say one more thing.
Go ahead.
Way back when, my daughters thought I should write my autobiography. And because they wanted to know all the deep, dark secrets of the 50s and the 60s and everything. And I thought they were really going to be some revelations. But I don't think it's going to do anything to open their eyes. I think in this day and age, they've probably seen it and heard it all. So I think I better just keep mine kind of silent. I don't think I dare publish it. But if I do, I'll let you guys know, okay?
All right.
Yes.
We would love that.
Yeah, my daughter begged me to write mine.
I would be terrified.
No, I did. Silence. It was about my high school years being
really?
Yeah.
I have not read that.
Yep.
Time to put that on the TBR list.
And it's fictionalized, but not. Names have been changed to protect
the guilty.
So
I was in love with the.
I was going to say something even.
I was in love with the
Methodist
I was like, no. When I was about 15. So they think that's really a scandal,
Yeah. So
What?
So I better not say any more because he's still living. So, you can't tell everything.
Uh-oh.
yeah.
Well, and Stephanie Woolley says, "Love Lives Here Part 2." I
Oh,
feel like
Stephanie.
this is a good question. I'm just gonna keep putting it up there.
Right, yeah. Stephanie, we're gonna talk later. Stephanie's coming to my award ceremony. So we're gonna have some words. No, there is no Love Lives Here Part 2 because our lives are very dull now.
Love
Right.
grows old.
Right. Like I cannot emphasize enough how boring we are. Like we went through all these changes, but really we're just more authentically dull now. Okay. That's really what it comes down to. So I am writing another book. Yes, that is happening. But it is not a continuation of the last book because there isn't much to talk about. I mean, what would I tell you that, we fight over what to watch on Netflix because that's what we fight about. I don't know. Or like how I want.
For every family though.
Right? Exactly. It is the most typical thing. I think people, they hear the word transgender and they suddenly just go, oh, that's other. Right. And the whole point of my book and this and us telling our story like we have is really just to normalize what is entirely like typical, right? It's not something that happens to everyone, but it's just a facet of what somebody is. It's just one part of who they are. And everything else is exactly the same. That's it.
So what is this new book going to be? Is this going to be nonfiction or?
I'm hoping to write something on mental health this time. And probably about my own mental health, mostly. There's a lot to tell.
See, I could also be a case study for you.
Right. There's a lot to tell.
Well.
Yeah. I have like a specific angle I want to go in on that I'm really excited about. I've got it in. Some people are reading my outline right now. They're deciding, like my proposal, deciding if they like it or not. Fingers crossed. We are early days. We shall see. But I think no matter what, I'm going to write it because I think it's something I feel like it needs to be written. And whenever I feel that something really needs to be written, I just go for it. And it doesn't really matter to me, if it gets accolades or it gets like some publisher's, stamp or something. It just needs to be written. So this is one of those things where I really want to write it. And that's what matters.
That's awesome. Well, and I think that the success of Love Lives Here too will make it a little easier for people to, it'll make it so that your new book is more visible for people. So that they can say this is, by the author of Love Lives Here, and they'll say, oh, well, I love that book, and I'd like to check this one out too. So that'll be kind of a cool thing.
That's what I'm hoping. Yeah.
Well, and I would like to write a memoir of my own, and this is on my list for the next couple of years. And everything is pretty secretive right now about it. There's no publisher or editor or anything else. It's just my brain. But I'm wondering, is there a good way to start? Because in my head, I want to start at something that was kind of a big event, and something that had a lot of
impact.
Why am I losing the word here, guys? Impact, yeah, that'll work. So something that had a lot of impact and work from there, and then maybe do backstory. But is it better to go chronological and kind of start at the beginning, or what do you think?
It really depends. I know for me, I started at I started the book where my wife comes out to me, like in that moment, and what that felt like, and then I break. And I go back into our childhoods, and I mostly go chronological throughout the book, with a couple of flashbacks to previous times, 3 or 4 of those throughout the book, when they mattered, when it was a good time to put them in. Initially, I was going to do it entirely chronologically, but it made more sense as we worked through the editing process to move some things around. So I think it doesn't really matter. It's what's going to flow for you, and then what's going to flow for the reader. What kind of message are you trying to get across? how can you best get that message across? Is it in a chronological way? But I will say, as somebody with ADHD, throwing me into a very captivating moment right at the start is going to keep me going. I'm not somebody who can pick up a book that is a slow read and keep going. I lose my focus too quickly. So if you want attention from people like me with my brain, it's a really good spot to put us in.
You make a good point too, not only for the ADHD minded, but that whole in media res start, which works for fiction as well. It can also help to contextualize what's happening, because you give that pivotal moment and then you give the meaning behind it, so they can go, oh, that's why this is there. But it's done in that immediacy order and then explanation, so that you don't have the boredom angle, which sometimes people don't like backstory because they don't want to take the time to understand. They want to get to the excitement.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, and sometimes these
I
biographies
started my book that. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Laura.
I was going to say, reading Tosca, I started books saying, 70 summers have gone by or whatever. If you read her book, you'll see it in there. I quoted it. And I woke up and found myself an old lady, an old woman. And so now I need to go back and review my life. And so, you can start at age 20 or 30 or something. And it's a good thing to start writing these things down, because you might funny parts, right?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Well, and I'd like to ask all of your opinions on something, because these biographies and memoirs can be very raw and exposing for not only the author, but for the people they're talking about. How much is too much information to include if you're talking about your life, but there are other people involved. How much of them do you really put in the story, ethically? What is okay?
Maybe you
Nobody
could get
wants to
them to
answer.
put in their thoughts along the way.
What'd
You
you
can
say,
always
Amanda?
edit them out if you don't like them.
I made it as fiction, so
I like Jane's approach, because you're right. If you put somebody into your memoir and it paints them in a very bad light, even though the events are true to your recollection, everybody has their own story and they might not have seen it the same way, and that could cause problems later. So yeah, that's a really good point to question about.
Oh, it's huge. It's a big responsibility. I know for me, when it came to describing, I also go back and talk about my high school bullying days. And there were some pretty horrific moments. And I changed the names of the people who were bullying me, so that their identities would be protected. I mean, really, there was no benefit to naming them anyway. How does that help them? It doesn't. How does that help me? It doesn't, right? I'm telling this story to help others. That is the objective of the book. And again, the objective of the book, what you're trying to help people get out of it is so important to keep in mind. The other thing is, when you're writing about other people, and it's especially sensitive, like people coming out, for example, it's really important to get their their consent. I think consent is really important when it comes to something like this. So I actually had my wife Zoe and my daughter Alexis and our other children read all their individual parts before it ever went to the publisher for the first time. And then once I was done with all the editing with my editor, read it again. Because I said, look, once this is out, it's out. I want to make sure you are absolutely comfortable with the things that are in here. And so that's, I left some things out because, again, my aim wasn't to hurt anybody or make anyone uncomfortable. So yeah, I do think it's important to be true to ourselves, but also bear in mind that these are other people's lives that we're affecting as well.
Well, here's a question for the panel and for anyone who's watching, if you want to chime in. Say you have this hypothetical author. So we're going to do all hypotheticals here, just to be safe, right? And while this person was growing up, they were badly abused by their stepfather. And that abuse played a big part in their development and who they ended up becoming as a person because of the struggle. Is that something that you can get into? Because that stepfather is probably still out there and a real person, but it's also kind of a big part of the story. What do you think?
My life is so simple compared to you guys's.
No, this is hypothetical.
This hypothetical author.
The stepfather
hypo-
as just stepfather.
Well,
Or you
he
leave the
doesn't
name out
have to.
completely?
He doesn't have to have a name, but obviously, if the author publishes that work, people are going to read about the stepfather.
And what if
Right.
the author published it under a pen name?
Good.
Yeah. Pen name or
Well, I just admire all of you who can write a big book, because mine's only 20 some pages, and it's just facts. And that's what I've always written about, were facts. So I don't have anything to do with fiction or fantasy or anything like that. I hardly know how to do that. So I admire you all terribly.
Well,
You
thank you.
can
But
think these things up, or you can write about something about your own family and put yourself out there on the limb.
well,
I'm in awe. So.
fiction is really just facts with a little bit of flourish added to it. That's all it is. We
Yeah.
take all the things from the real world and just add a lie about it a little bit more.
Embellish it.
Yes, that's right. Embellish. That's nicer than saying lie. But that's what I do with all of my books, and I know that I've said this before, is that I'll take a real life event that's happened in my life or something that a friend has told me about, and I'll build the story around that, because I really like having that factual backbone for the story. It's kind of like that rock that I could keep going back to and touching to say, okay, this is the real thing. I can keep building around it, and it doesn't work that way for everyone, but for me, it works really, really well. The story I'm writing right now is about a good friend of mine, Jenny, and she's kind of a magnet for paranormal activity. All sorts of crazy stuff has happened in her life, and so she wrote me an email that kind of went over everything that she could remember that she experienced. I said, okay, well, I'm gonna build something around this. So while a lot of it is factual, it's still a fictionalized story, but facts are the backbone to it.
Mm-hmm.
And Katie and Jane, you guys are doing something similar with the demon lady who escapes from hell, right? Was that based on Katie, or?
No.
I have so many new
Not
books
at
to
all.
read.
Yeah, book,
Even-
book 3 is due out on the 15th. So
Wow,
I don't have
awesome.
my paperbacks here like I do at home.
Oh, I need to order mine too, because I've got an event coming up next month. So I got to order some copies. Yeah.
Yes.
So I have a question for anyone who's written more than one book. I found the process very daunting the first time. For some weird, inexplicable reason, I want to do it again. But I mean, were you exhausted after the writing and editing process and everything the first time? And how long did it take you before you dove back in?
Why don't you two ladies up top take that one, since you've written like 20 books? You've way got the experience.
I'm at 49.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
once I was let loose by my family to write, I'll put it that way. I think I wrote 6 books in 18 months.
What?
Yes.
How?
Because I had 20 years of these stories pinging around in my head and flushing and all of this stuff, and it just came out like word vomit. And then it was another 2 years before I could, before I had it edited and yes, 20 years of word vomit. And then I could, think clearer now. It was really quite odd. But I did one after another. Now it takes me a little bit more to step back into it, because especially after writing a trilogy or a series or something like that, to step out of those people's lives that we've created. And I say we because Katie and I did this together for the last trilogy. it was really hard to go on to something else. I had to sort of say goodbye to them before I could, do something
It's hard
else.
to change gears. Like when
Yeah.
you're in one mindset, it's hard to jump into another character's headspace.
Yes, it is.
So yeah,
And
although you write twice as fast as I do. So whereas I may take a break between books, usually about a month or so, you are like raring to go on the next book, like the very next day. Yeah, she's crazy.
I don't understand. Where does this come from?
I don't know. It's harder to write the single title books than the series, because if I get into a series, I get to know the characters, and I just want to, they're demanding more. It's not me.
And I prefer series. I like to really dive into the characters, their world, and develop them over a series of books rather than trying to do it all in one space.
Yeah.
So I prefer that. And then I can live in that world for, maybe 2 years while I'm writing their series.
Yes.
Well, and
then connect other books to that world. It's just all intertwined. So
we have a good question from Mike Faria. And Mike asked, what would you say is the most difficult genre to write in? For whatever reason, I stopped dead in my tracks when thinking about writing nonfiction, but I like to read nonfiction. One of the scary things about trying is that everything needs to be 100% fact-checked, or someone is going to call you out. Mike, they do that with fiction too. Just so you know.
Don't ever mention a gun unless you know what you're talking about in fiction.
Nope. Well, what do you guys think? What's the most difficult genre to write in? I think it's fantasy.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll take nonfiction 1,000 times over fiction. I find fiction. So it's funny because I love to read fiction, but I will only write nonfiction. I don't know why that is. I'm in awe of fiction writers being able to come up with these amazing stories and put them all together. But yeah, I understand what you're saying, Mike, because I had to go back and fact check a lot of stuff too. And then also when you're dealing with an ever evolving issue or topic, like the LGBTQ community, some of the words even changed throughout the book. So I would start writing and I sort of had I was using certain terms, and two years later, when I was done writing the book, I had to go back and change a couple of terms that had really evolved in that time. So it is amazing what can happen. You have to sort of keep on top of it, but also there's something kind of comforting about writing what you know. So, that was easy. It's my own story. It's my own life. It's my family's life. So that was simple.
We have our editor friend, Rebecca, that is weighing in on what she thinks is the hardest thing to write. And she says autoerotic asphyxiation. Every time I try to write it, I get all choked up.
Yep. I had to put my glasses on for that, Rebecca.
Rebecca.
You were saying.
Wow, Rebecca, that was. I love it. I love it, Rebecca.
And Regine says hard sci-fi, and I'll tell you what, I bet that's incredibly difficult, because not only are they creating a fantasy universe, but they are also trying to stick as close as they possibly can to science that may not even exist yet. So that would be very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with sci-fi being a hard one. Anybody seen The Expanse?
Yeah.
Okay, that's based on a book series which I now have on top of my TBR list because I want to read it. It was one of the first sci-fi television series that seemed legitimately possible. And I really enjoyed that fact. And again, it's that hard sci-fi angle. It has to be believable. And they really did keep it believable within 200 years of our current future. So now I'm going, I got to read these books. I've got to see how close the TV series stuck with the books. And apparently there's quite a few of them too.
Oh,
interesting. Well, speaking of shows,
I can't wait to hear this all on YouTube.
Have any of you,
since it's cutting out every other word, it's like this will be really fun to listen to.
Have any of you watched the show Sex Education on
my
Netflix?
battery says it's real low, so I plugged in again. But
okay,
shall
good.
I leave you a bit more? and I can thank you for having me.
Oh, if
Thank
you want to
you.
go, you
Appreciate
can. Otherwise, yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
go. Okay.
No, you you could do whatever you want.
No, I plugged in. I said,
You
hey,
can stay
if
or
my
you can
battery
go.
holds out on this little phone, it's awful. You guys all have such nice professional backgrounds and everything. It's like, oh man, I feel bad about that. So
Do you
And
see
South
do you see
Carolina.
Jane's up there?
yeah, I mean, it looks nice. It looks nice. You're in the condo. You're in the basement. Hey.
I'm in the corner.
Oh. Well,
You guys are so
Classy
cute.
writing setup.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I've got the child's artwork right behind me.
Yeah. Well, and if you see this way, it looks all nice. But if you pan that way, you see I'm just in like a closet in the art room.
Wait, we're shattering everyone's fantasy here. Hold on, guys.
Oh yeah, this is just one of my basements. I have many.
Okay.
A few moments of
That could be
dreaming
interpreted
reality
many
is good for
ways. Just
everybody.
saying.
Yeah.
To Rebecca's
For sure.
comment.
That's right. That's right. Rebecca, where are you on this one? Oh, Rebecca, and also speaking of inappropriate, that's just how I think of you. But have any of you watched the show Sex Education on Netflix?
No, should I?
I am in love with it.
It's pretty amazing.
Okay.
It's pretty funny. Do not watch it while the children are awake.
No,
But
no.
mine are grown up though.
Oh, yeah.
I told my children to watch it without me.
Oh.
Like I was like, it's okay if you want to watch this show. It's a great show. It's factual. It's funny. It like doesn't talk down to teenagers, but like go watch it without me just
I-
because you're gonna get really uncomfortable.
Watch it.
Yeah, I don't want to be in the same room as my
That's
kids
right.
watching that.
I will invite my daughter and her boyfriend over and sit them down on the couch and make them watch it.
This is how they do it in the UK, guys. Oh goodness! Oh goodness!
Well, based on
Oh.
last week, I don't have to do that with my son.
Oh, we've got a series of comments from Rebecca here, of course.
Oh no.
Well, so she says she keeps all of her authors in basements, and then oh wait. I'm skipping. None of them complain. That's what ball gags are for.
Rebecca, can we be best friends?
Oh yes. Well, Rebecca is actually a publisher and an editor, and she is fantastic. But she keeps us all on her toes. And Regine up there is actually her husband, who for some reason doesn't use his real name. It's driving me crazy. But they're a lot of fun.
Can we come up with a name for Regine?
Let's do it.
Ooh.
Let's do it. Well, we came up with something at one point, didn't we, guys? It
If
was
we
like
did, I forgot. Maybe I was drinking. I don't know.
it was like Naughty Rabbit or something like that. I can't remember what it was exactly.
Okay.
Oh, well, we're getting kind of towards
You
that.
guys are fun.
We try.
Laura, I hope that you can hear.
Yeah,
some of
don't
what's
tell
going on,
Tosca
Laura.
anything, okay? Yeah.
Can you hear me now, Laura? Can you hear me, Laura, or no?
Anyway, all right, now I can hear you. What'd you say?
Okay, so we all really want to know what pleasures you wanted to pack in your bag.
Well, did you ask me what to pack in my bag?
What pleasures?
The part that
Which
Tosca
what?
took out.
The part that Tosca took out. What, Amanda?
It's lip gloss. Calm down.
Are you asking me the part she took out of my book?
Yes.
I told her we have the question and answers at the back, and I put in all different kinds of things, like from the neighbors who says she likes to bring 5 different pairs of shoes and all this, which she doesn't need. And I said, could I bring my own brand of pleasure? And answered it and said, if it's your boyfriend you're talking about, tell him to get his own ticket. So she took that out. When your kids grow up, you know what I mean?
Do not watch Sex Education with her. Don't do it.
X-rated. Anyway, I wish I could hear every single waking up terribly. So I'm going to listen to it on YouTube, and then I'll hear everything you all said for the second time.
And then we'll all be in trouble.
Thank you
That's
very
right.
much.
We'll be in big trouble.
I can't wait to go listen to it right now. So thank you again.
Yes,
Appreciate
thank you. Thank you,
I'm
Laura.
going to leave now because it still is breaking up.
Okay. It was good talking with you, Laura.
Bye.
Bye, Laura.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Oh,
Now we're in
whoa.
that was weird. Oh, we
went
can.
to the Brady Bunch.
We're a little too close now. Let's see, what can we do about that? Oh God, no, we don't want that.
This is like Hollywood
Lord.
Squares. What's going
Oh, goodness.
That's so good. I'm really pleased with this light. It makes my teeth look really white.
Well, it's like this nice soft white light raining down on you. It's beautiful.
Amazing.
Lovely.
Wow.
And I'm in this grayish. At least I don't look as gray as what I'm in.
Well, it's because you guys are 200 years old. You're going to start to lose some pigment.
I know. And I tried to stand out in the sun.
Okay, so full disclosure, I went to MAC today and I had her do all my foundation because I had to buy foundation anyway, and then I had her put the bronzer on, and anyway, I bought like double what I wanted to buy today, but it makes my skin look amazing. So thank you, cosmetics.
You look fabulous. Oh, wait, hang on. We gotta.
Hey.
Yeah. That's awesome. Oh, well, and I was trying to bug Zoe into peeking her head in tonight, but she apparently doesn't want to.
Oh, she's
sad.
just, we had a big day at the mall.
Yeah.
We were at the mall. That's tiring. She had to try on a lot of clothes and look amazing in them. And I had to tell her she looked amazing in them. And that's, yeah. And then like the kids were like, we're bored. We want to go home. As soon as we feed them in the food court, right? And they're like, can we go home now? And that was it. So then we sent 2 of them home on the bus. We're like, bye. Yeah.
That is an exciting life.
I know. It's thrilling. It's a mile a minute around here. And I can see why there might be a little envy about the author life. So, yeah.
Okay.
You kind of touched a little bit on the fact that you get a lot of hate. I'm just wondering, because we, as authors, and me not so much, I'm not popular enough to really get a lot of hate yet. I've got a couple angry emails, but a lot of times authors will end up with some hate mail or some trolls or people that just want to be jerks and mess with them. But as someone with, I think you're followed by 50,000 people on Twitter. So that's a lot of opportunity for interactions with people, and some of them probably pretty unpleasant. How have you learned to cope with something like that, to cope with negative interactions?
Well, so the first time I got a whole lot of hate at once was a couple of years ago, and I cried in my basement. This basement, actually. So this is like an iconic basement. Yeah, in this room. And I ordered pizza and I watched, 1990s, early 2000s rom-coms. Lots of Meg Ryan. Yeah. It was very, very soothing for my soul. And the second time it happened, I adopted a rescue kitten. I don't recommend that as a course of action, but she's very cute. She looks a lot like your cat, Jason. Yeah, okay, very, very cute. But now I just sort of think that it's about understanding, again, it's people's motives, right? So like the other day, this awful website, somebody sent me the link to it. And they were like, hey, so they posted some pretty nasty things about you and your family. So I went to go check it out. And they had stolen a photo of me in a bathing suit. And my wife too, but my wife looks amazing in her bathing suit. But this was particularly an awful one for them to steal, because it was the first time I had gone to the beach in a bathing suit in years, because I had been when my eldest, who's now 23, was about a year old. And I was very badly fat shamed by some people who were there. They made fun of me and called me a beached whale. And it was like just a really bad experience. And then I said, I'm never doing that again. And very, very rarely was out in a bathing suit in public. And finally, I just thought, you know what? At the time, I was like, I am 42 years old. I am too old for this. Put on a bathing suit, went to the beach, took a picture in it, got my power back. And then somebody took that picture and called me a fat pig. So that could have just destroyed me. And, okay, so if so Rebecca says every time you get hate mail, donate $5 to LGBTQIA charities, I would be out of a house. I literally would have no food to feed my children. I love this idea. I do it occasionally. I'm not exaggerating. Somebody would repo my car, okay? It's a lovely, lovely thought, though. I love that. Anyway, you know what I did is I laughed. I was like, wow, what does it take for a person to steal a picture, write a very poorly written, I might add, full of spelling errors, comment about me and my family, my lovely family that has done no harm. That is a very, fantastic group of people. And like, that's what you get to pick on. You're picking on the fact that I'm a fat person. Ooh, wow. That means my life's pretty good if that's what you got to go. Right. So yeah, I just let it roll right off my back. And then I posted something about it on Twitter, and then I started getting hate mail about that. Oh, well, if you didn't care, you wouldn't post a whole thread about it. And I was like, oh, you don't understand. I'm doing that to inspire other people that you can actually have this experience and learn how to not care. I think it's just been like a process, right? So from like crying on the floor eating pizza to rescue kittens, and here we are.
Well, and I was trying to share my screen here, but apparently I've lost the ability to do that. But I'm actually looking at your response to that fat shaming, and it is a video of you eating potato chips with a very FU expression on your face, and my heart just melts as I watch this.
That was my reply. My reply literally was pop a can of Pringles and video myself eating a chip. Yep. And then just smirking into the camera. And that was that. Like, yeah, you know what? I like my chips. Thank you. And I like wearing a bathing suit. And now I'm going to wear one that's even more, revealing next year. And I'm going to eat a burger in it just for those guys.
Yes. I love it. Yeah, you have taken, it's really pretty beautiful. One of my favorite things, and I know it shouldn't be, is seeing your responses to trolls, because you've gone from, like you said, crying in your basement. Oh, Rebecca wants to be your friend too, Amanda.
I know, we're instant best friends now. Done.
But now it's not only does it not hurt your feelings, you post it and you laugh about it and you make fun of them, which I have to imagine is worse for them than anything else you can do. I think it's
empowering to you. Yeah.
It's just, what else are you going to do? I can't give them my power. I just got it. I just got that. I just got over that stuff. I'm not going to let someone else take it away. And that, I know it sounds easier said than done. It is hard. And when you have other issues, I have mental health issues, I have trauma from everything from being set on fire in front of my high school to, a whole bunch of other stuff. Trust me, I get it. It is not always easy, but I just woke up and one day and realized I can't spend the rest of my life living it for other people. I can't. So that's what the book is about. That's what my life is about. And that's what the message is about, really. It's just, I'm not going to get bullied anymore, and my family's not going to get bullied, and we're going to live.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
And eat Pringles.
Well, and Stephanie says, so good, Amanda. BTW, when is Love Lives Here Part 2 coming out? She didn't actually say that, but keep pressing, Stephanie. Keep on her about this. All right, and then we have one more comment from Rebecca, and then we've got to wrap up the show today. Rebecca says, those people see a loving couple and think it's something awful. Clearly, they have no taste or perspective. Or life. They really don't. Well, this has been a lovely talk. I feel bad that that our other guests couldn't hear us very well, but hopefully going back on YouTube she'll be able to hear the whole conversation and really cringe at everything that I said. That's always my goal. But it has been so lovely talking with all of you, and for everyone that's watching, thank you so much for being here. Please, if you could, if you're on YouTube or Facebook, doesn't matter, click like on the video, share it around, subscribe, whatever you want to do, and then come visit us again next week. We'll be here at the same time.
And tell them that you want me back so I can come back and hang out.
Yes, and we want Amanda back. Yes.
Welcome back anytime. Seriously.
Oh, thanks.
Seriously.
Oh yeah, we've got to plug Amanda's book one more time. We always do that. Buy Love Lives Here. Seriously, it will change your freaking life. It really did for me. And you will also bawl your eyes out. So, it's kind of a fun bonus.
And don't forget our lovely sponsor.
Oh, yes, we can't forget our sponsor. Oh, my gosh. Katie, I'm supposed to be doing this at the beginning of the show. What the heck, man? You can't trust me to do stuff.
You can't even do anything.
I know. I keep hitting the button too fast.
Butterfingers.
So Creative Edge Publicity Services, which is incidentally also in Canada, we love Canadians, has as our sponsor for this show. They're making it possible for us to use this wonderful video platform and to produce our podcast. We are very appreciative of them, and they actually bring us a ton of amazing guests to have on the show. So thank you so much to Mickey and his Creative Edge team. And everybody else, we love you. Have a good night.